Woof. And we're live. Uh, Good morning. This is Sarah Merritt from Lifestream Health Center in Bowie, Maryland, where we're making pain management more caring, accessible, patient-centric, and evidence-based. You may hear some barking because I'm working from home today. That's Inga. That's my German Shepherd. And I have an excellent guest today, Michelle Quirk, who is also a physician, and she is a running coach. So Michelle, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I like the doggy sounds in the background.
Yeah, keeping it real. Tell us a little about what you do. So, what is a running coach? Tell us about yourself.
Yeah. So I'm a pediatrician by training here, but I am also now a runner and a running coach. And I think maybe the most interesting part of the story is to say that I was not always a runner. So if you're out there listening and you think it's not for you, I was one of those people as well. So
Yeah,
I started running about 10 years ago. In my early 30s. So I was a kid who really struggled with the sport, and I had a lot of friends who were runners, but I was always the one huffing and puffing around the track at the end of the mile run. And I thought that the track team and the cross country people were made of something different than I was, and I couldn't do it. And so, about 10 years ago, I picked it up as a way to kind of walk the walk, as it were. So I had finished my residency and, started a new job, moved to a new place, was newly married, studying for board exams, lots of things happening all at once. And my dad was diagnosed with cancer on top of all of these other stressors that were going on. And I found myself one night in the emergency department talking to a family about healthy habits and exercise and getting enough fruits and vegetables and sleeping well and all of those things. And here I was not doing any of that. And I just had this moment with myself, okay, it's time to make a change. And really, I'm talking the talk, so time to walk the walk. And so I started, but when I started that time, it was different. I let myself, before that, I thought, maybe when people take up running, I thought you could just go from the couch and go out and run, 3 miles or 5 miles or something. And I think that, no, I don't think so. At least I could not. I could not. And so
I don't think I could either.
And I think a lot of people, if you're not an athlete, right, and you're not doing this activity on a regular basis, it's very hard to go right from the couch and go out and do that, especially when you're not in your teens and 20s anymore.
Okay.
And so, so I started going around the block 5 or 10 minutes at a time, a couple times a week. And I worked up from there, and that's what stuck. So now I'm kind of, 10 years later, and I feel like I'm a bit of a running evangelist. I'm trying to get everybody to tie on their sneakers and get out the door. And don't
now
worry.
You've run marathons. So you can run probably any distance up to a marathon at this point, but it's taken some years to get there.
Yeah, exactly. And even when I started running regularly, if you had told me that I would run some marathons someday, I would have thought you were crazy also.
So what changed, I wonder, what were the shifts that as you began to run more, what got you to
keep going?
That desire, it's not, no one's making you do this. No one's making you run marathon.
No, right. It comes from within. But I think what I noticed when I started, even with just a little bit of running, 10 minutes a couple times a week, I found that while I was out there on the sidewalk or the trail, all of the other stressors and things that were going on in the background, everything got quiet and calm. And I really liked how I felt. It was sort of a head clearing for me, especially with everything going on with my dad at the time. And I think that's what kept me lacing up my sneakers and wanting to go for longer periods of time. And then after, maybe 6 months or so after I was consistently running a couple times a week, my husband and I ran our first official local 5K, which was a big deal. And that was really fun, the race atmosphere, being around other runners. And I think so all of these things were positive feedback to keep going out there and doing more. And then you start thinking well, I wonder if I could go further. I wonder if I could get faster, or if
Oh.
I really, if I really follow a training plan, what would happen. So I got a little bit curious. And then one thing led to another, half marathon, full marathon. Now we travel around to different races as a way to see new places and, travel with my husband and just enjoy the running community. But
That's
I think, overall, I feel now I can say, all of these health benefits that we know of, right? Like, we know it's great for our physical health, but it's also great for our mental health as well. So I think that keeps me going out there.
Well, and what is great about running? Talk to me like I don't know. What's great about, I do have patients who, if I think about consulting with patients about exercise or running, sometimes patients might have legitimate concerns around pain with running, or can my joints handle it? Can you talk to us about that? Can most everyone run some distance? Is there anybody that needs to run not at all? That might be an easy place to start.
Yeah. I work with a lot of people who are regular walkers. Like, they have a brisk walk routine, but they might be like curious about running. And I think, my advice across the board is really, you can give it a try in a way that works for you. So if you are coming from the couch, I would recommend getting into a regular walk routine first. Like, don't go out and try to run the 5K like I did. But like, a regular walk routine is fantastic. And a lot of the health benefits are there as well. So you don't have to go out and run. We can brisk walk regularly and get lots of these benefits for our heart and our blood pressure and all of those things. If you want to try running, if you're a regular walker already, I have a couple of tips there. Like, what you can do is, if you're in your neighborhood or you're on the trail, our friend Dr. Una dubbed it the mailbox technique, but in the middle of your walk, you can just, view the mailboxes and take a little jog in between the mailboxes. So, 5-10 seconds, and then walk for a period of time, whatever that is for you, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. If you just try it and you don't like it, that's fine. But if you feel like you're recovered, your breath feels recovered, then you can, jog a little bit between some mailboxes later on down the road. And that's like a very simple run walk interval. And nobody has to know, right? Like, you can just try it, see how you feel.
Yeah.
And
I guess as I think about that, and as I think about how that feels, it's okay to be a little uncomfortable. That might be the case if I think about how I would feel if I started going from a comfortable walk to running. It gets uncomfortable, and then
and I should say too, it's not a sprint, right? Like, you're jogging, you're not trying to run as fast as you can between the mailboxes. So just a nice jog, and then walk until you feel recovered back to, your heart rate comes back down, you feel like you can carry on a conversation. And then, you can try that a couple of times. And if you like it, you can do a more, I'll say, prescribed run walk interval. Like, a lot of my runners use intervals like a 10-second jog and 2-minute walk or something like that. And so there are apps like an interval timer that you can download on your phone. So it'll ding and tell you like when to walk and when to run. And it's a really popular method. Jeff Galloway is sort of the, founder of this run walk method that is sort of prescribed, but in a way it works very well for a lot of people, because then you have that period of walking to recover in between. So I'm not saying you have to get out and run straight, right? And I use a lot of run walk intervals myself, and especially for longer distances, it works really, really well. So if you're out there kind of worried, there are a lot of fears about running and pain, I think.
For sure.
Yeah. And so I think if you take it as, you can start low and you can go slow, and just recognize that it doesn't have to hurt. Like, we can make it hurt very easily by speeding up, trying to go way too far for our current level of fitness. But if we start from where we're at, and just go slow, you can make lots of gains, in a very short amount of time.
Awesome. Yes. And I've heard that name, Jeff Galloway, over the years. I mean, gosh, he's been in this running world for decades, I'm sure, at this point.
Yes.
And is there a name of a specific app that you like for this interval type of work?
Yeah, there's if you have an iPhone, I think it's called interval timer, or it's
Okay.
it's actually for like HIIT training, like high intensity
Okay.
interval training, but
Mhm.
it's called interval timer, and you can just download it and then set whichever intervals you like. But I'm sure there are other ones if you look up interval timer for free.
Got it. And then it could give you an audible on your
Yep,
headset.
yep. And you can set the thing to be, it could be a ding, it can be chimes, it could be music.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea, really. I think because it would help you have some goals, some metrics to really work toward. Otherwise, if it's for me as a runner, I would share that I don't run a lot right now. I like basically none.
That's
But
okay.
I have been a runner in the past,
Yes, yes.
and yeah, it needs to be. You can use a. I could imagine using the timer because then it's not just about how you feel or, oh, I don't feel like running. Because do you feel like running every day? I know when I ran,
No,
I didn't feel like running every day, and yet I would do it. Do you feel like running every day?
no, no. And I will tell you, I'm really not a morning person. And
Mhm.
especially in the winter here, like I live in Philadelphia, but if it's dark and cold and the alarm goes off, like the thought is not like I can't wait to get out of bed and go for a run in the cold.
Yeah. What
But
is the thought?
the, moaning and groaning and like I just want to sleep. I really love sleep, and I
Hmm.
don't like to wake up early. But I
But I
do.
guess you like the result of running enough that you do it.
Yeah, yeah. I think it for me, having some sort of goal on the calendar is very helpful.
Hmm.
Whether like that usually looks like a race. Maybe
Hmm.
not a race in terms of like trying to be as fast as possible and get
You're
like a
not there to
personal
win
record,
necessarily.
but a race that is on the calendar that I'm working toward. Like we have a half marathon coming up at the end of April. That's kind of a
Mhm.
destination race. We're traveling to Oregon. We've never been to this area, and so it's on the calendar, and like you can't. Yes, could you not train for it? Yes, I suppose so, but that would not be a very smart thing, and probably
Mhm.
would end up injured. So like having those
Yeah.
milestones on the calendar just to have to take stock, like okay, I have this, I know I have a certain period of time to train for it.
Hmm.
That helps get me out of bed, and then also how I feel on the day to day. I think I'm a much calmer, peaceful person
Yeah.
because I run, and I think it helps with my relationships with my family and with my patients and my colleagues at work. And so it's very much like positive feedback now. Like I know how I feel when I don't run. I
Hmm.
don't run every day. I run maybe between 3 and 5 days a week, depends on the
Okay.
week. So I don't run every day, but I can tell the difference on the days when I don't run.
Yeah. And your mileage or hours that you spend running, I'm sure there's a big range depending where you are and working up to a race. But what would the range look like?
Yeah, if I'm not like actively training for a race, if I'm just let's say in sort of maintenance, like base training mode, running like 3 or 4 times a week, maybe 10 or 15 miles a week,
Okay.
like a couple hours a week.
Hmm. Hmm.
But now, we're getting toward like a peak of training, and I'm, 20 to 25 miles a week.
Okay.
Maybe 5 to 6 hours of running a week. It's a lot right at this moment, but that's
Yeah.
because this race is coming up in about a month.
And how many years have you been doing this? You said 10 years or so.
Yeah, 10
Have there
years.
been
Mhm.
changes in your fitness for sure?
Oh, yeah.
Over
Yeah.
this period of time? Do you feel you're fitter? Has your weight been the same or changed? A lot of people really just want to maintain. Other
Mhm.
times people get into a sport, toward weight loss. But I think that's an important feature of the health benefit.
Yeah, yeah. I would definitely say I am fitter now at 40 than I was when I started 10 years ago.
Mhm.
I'm a lot faster. Like I know that I haven't reached my peak in terms of speed.
Mhm.
And people who were runners in high school or college, that can be a hurdle to getting back into it with this thought that like maybe I could never be as fast as I was back
Oh,
then.
yes.
So I
Yes.
don't have that because I wasn't wasn't a runner back
Right.
then. And so I'm kind of like curious, like I keep, with this
Hmm.
training, I'm getting
Yeah.
faster
Yeah.
and stronger. And I started really leaning into strength training, and that has really helped as well in terms of like preventing injury. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to be honest, the weight on the scale,
Hmm.
actually, like in the past couple of weeks, it's higher than it was in, say, the fall when I was not doing as much strength training. But
Okay.
I'm wearing the same size clothes and things are fitting better. So I think I am more muscular.
Sure.
And so I try to tell people, I try not to focus on the scales so much, because especially if you're training for these long distances, like you have to fuel, and I'm eating a lot of carbs and a lot of protein, and I'm eating a lot of volume.
Yes.
But I'm training a lot, I'm doing strength training. And so I try not to like step on the scale too much, but it is interesting in terms of what the number is and how it fluctuates over time. But I would say I've been kind of within 10 pounds of the same weight over 10 years. So I am maintaining.
Yeah. And I really think, while running could certainly be part of a weight loss, really what I like about the way that you work with people is that it's really about your overall health and fitness, and the scale is one thing, but it's certainly not the only thing. And lower weight is not always a goal.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel I have more energy now. And that's the best way I could say it. I just feel like a much fitter, stronger person, and a more peaceful person at 40 than I was at 30.
That's great. Well, and so I'd like to kind of shift gears and hear a little bit about just the way that you've turned this passion project into a business, right? So because I think it's so great and energizing, right? It's one thing to have your own running practice or your own running, but at this point that really you share it with others. Help me understand that evolution, or why not just run for yourself? Why why do the coaching that you do?
Well, I think what changed for me was working with my own coach. So I was running on my own for probably 4 or 5 years before I started working with a coach. And back at that time, I thought that only very fast runners or like elite runners had a running coach, or people who were trying to qualify for the Boston Marathon. Like, I didn't know that there were coaches who worked with beginners or people who worked with, like, we'll say, regular runners, right? And so when I started working with my coach, I made so many gains so quickly. And I thought, wow, I wish I had, done that 5 years ago. And so he really kind of inspired me to really go back and really read about like run physiology. I mean, I'm sure there was a class about that in medical school, but I don't know if it was about running specifically, but just to learn like how we structure a training plan the way we do, and how you build someone's fitness and speed and all of those things. And I really kind of dove back into reading about it. And I started coaching my friends and family. Like, I was writing training plans for my friends and family and signing people up for races to run with me. And so that's sort of the birth of Mindful Marathon. I was dragging along my family and friends to all of these races. And and so then I decided, okay, well, I'm going to take this run coach course to really like make sure I've got it before I put it out into the world. And that's how Mindful Marathon started. So I've been coaching about, I think this is going into the 4th year. Yeah, 4 years now. And I've tried some different things. Like, first I worked only with one client at a time. So like one-on-one coaching, everybody got a custom training plan. And I was doing that for a while. And now I've tried some group programs, which I really like, because I love the community in running. And when the pandemic hit, like, originally I thought I'm going to have local clients, right? And run with people locally, but then physically. And then here we had COVID. And so I had clients all over the US, and we were doing a lot over Zoom and email and it grew from there. But I learned like these groups are really powerful, and we can still come together on Zoom. And so I've tried, I've had beginner groups. I'm in the middle of a half marathon training group. So everybody in the group has a different half marathon that they're running, and they all have their own training plan, but then we come together to talk about kind of the main topics and hurdles and things we have to prepare for, fueling and nutrition and tapering and all of those things. So I really, really like the group. So I have a feeling it may remain a combination of things. Like, I have one-on-one clients who are training for a variety of different things. And then I have groups for, beginner and more advanced.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So if someone was interested in exploring one of your groups, I see I've posted your links.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Is the best way to do that through your Facebook page, Instagram, YouTube, or do you have a landing page?
Yeah, I have a website. You can find all of it. There's like on the link tree, like the link in my bio in Facebook or Instagram, you can get to the website.
Yeah.
But for people who are just starting out, there's a 1-month training plan on there that you can download, and you can use it for walking, or if you want to try run walk. So it's written for both if you are like looking to get into it. And then the next group I'm going to have is the beginner group. It's called Ready, Set, Run. So after this half marathon group ties up, that'll be the next one. So if you want to get on the wait list for that, there's a link for it too.
Awesome. That's very helpful. It came to mind since we were talking about your groups. I'm still interested, I'm glad to chat some more, but I did just want to make sure that we cover that of how we could get into one of those groups, because I think that sounds really, really appealing. And so even in your group programs, you end up constructing a custom plan for each individual kind of from where they are, it sounds like.
Yeah. I use a platform. It's called Final Surge is the name of the platform, but everybody, you have your own login, and it looks like a calendar and like a spreadsheet. And so everybody will get their own plan. I have a big long questionnaire that you fill out at the beginning, and we kind of figure out where you're at in terms of distance and pace and all of those things. So, some people want to run 3 times a week. Some people want to run 5 times a week. Everybody's got a lot of different scheduling challenges, work and family. I work with a lot of physicians, people working night shift. And so, so everybody's kind of doing their own thing in terms of personalized training. And then we come together and, troubleshoot. Everybody has similar things that come up along the way. And then sort of the basics of running and form and pace and effort level, all of those things are covered for the beginners. And then, we'll see. Someday I would like to have a marathon group as well, if I have enough interest.
Yes, that's a bigger bite, I think.
It is.
Bigger bite. How long would it take? Here's a fact question. How long do you think it would take to go from the couch to a marathon safely for someone of, average athleticism?
I would give yourself maybe a year. So like a marathon training cycle is usually 16 to 20 weeks. So 4 or 5 months for the marathon. And that's assuming that you're coming to it with some base training. So base training would be maybe like 3-4 months of consistently running 3 to 4 times a week and feeling comfortable with that. So if you've got 5 months of marathon training, 4 months of base training, that's about 9 months. And then maybe you want to work toward, so people who do that, usually I recommend having some stepping stones along the way, because a marathon that's a year down the road can feel really far away at some points. So maybe, halfway through, we put a couple of other races on the calendar. Maybe 6 months before we work toward a half marathon. And maybe if you're just starting from the couch, in 3 months, we do our first 5K. And then maybe we do a 10K. So there's ways to do it where it doesn't feel so daunting and so far away that this marathon is so far out. But we've got smaller goals that we hit along the way to kind of keep the momentum going. And, we take it in chunks. Taken in, thinking about training for a marathon over a year can just feel like a lot. Speaking from experience.
Yeah, that's right. And you'll still be doing other things amid the...
Yeah. The whole point of this, right, is that it fits into your life, that we're not trying to, we don't want running to take over your life unless you want it to, but we want it to fit very nicely and help you in all other aspects of your life. So it's starting to take over your life, and we need to chat.
Right. I'm interested to kind of finally explore a little bit about what it means to run mindfully. And that's part of your name here is working under the mindful marathon brand. What does it mean to run mindfully, or how does a person run mindfully?
Yeah, I think this was maybe the biggest surprise for me along the way. Like when I started, I couldn't put that feeling into words. Like I would just describe it as all the thoughts cleared out of my head while I was going around the block for a couple of minutes doing my jog. And that's what kept me going out there for more. And as I progressed in running and I started running in nature and took out my headphones and no longer listened to music or podcasts or books or anything like that, and just really tapped into nature and how my body felt in the moment, like I was really able to gauge my effort level better and enjoy running more. And so, yeah, so that's how it started. And now I, thanks to our friend, Dr. Rashmi Shram, I have a regular meditation routine as well. And I feel like the synergy of both of those, like the meditation and the movement, it's sort of like a rest and activity. And this lovely synergy has brought a lot of like peace and also a strength maybe like that I never knew was in there.
Wow.
And so I try to have people like, a lot of my people run with music and headphones and books and all of that. And so just baby steps, like maybe pop out your headphones for 5 minutes on your run and just really notice nature, kind of take in your surroundings. That's like a very easy way to kind of dip your toe into running more mindfully. And we use it as an experiment also to feel different paces. So an easy pace versus like a 5K race effort, those feel a lot different to the body. And if you don't have distractions of music and things like that, you can really feel how it feels in your body. So that's sort of running mindfully 101. But yeah,
I like it. Well, and I think my impression, I'm not a run with headphones person, and that's never been my way. Do you live in an urban area? That's the other thing, is if you're in an urban area, if you're around other people, it's potentially unsafe to be overwhelmed with your own sound, right? I don't know if that's a concern in your running life, or it depends on.
So we do live in the city, but I usually run on a trail. But I like to have all of my senses about me as well, because we live here. So yeah, and most of the time I'm trying to dodge cyclists and dogs.
Right.
Or Canadian geese, like just birds and ducks and stuff.
Well, and I think the human condition, because running isn't always physically pleasant if you focus on the sensation, that's my impression, at least, of why many people choose to run with headphones, right? Is to maybe not
to tune it out
of what the body is saying.
Yeah, and part of my program is to teach everyone what it feels like to truly run at like an easy pace, like an effort level that feels comfortable. And I feel like that's like, it's not a secret, but it feels like this big secret. Like when you finally slow down and it like feels good and you want to keep going out and doing that, it's like, wow, how come I didn't do that before?
Oh, okay. That's right. Okay. So that's the place to be, is the place where it feels
conversation pace. Yes.
I like it. I like it. Well, this has been so helpful and interesting. Dr. Quirk, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Do you have anything additional that you'd like to leave us with? This is Michelle Quirk, helping others fall in love with running by making it easy and fun. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I think just, step one is tying on the sneakers, and there's no required pace or distance that you must go to call yourself a runner. And really, the sport is very welcoming. The running community is very welcoming. So no matter where you're starting from, we'd love to have you join us.
Got it. And I think that's going to be the take home. There's no required pace or distance to call yourself a runner. So running for people who do not run, just get out there and try a little.
Love it.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks again.
Take care.